All right, how's everybody doing today? Hotep. Okay, we should be live here on Facebook Live and on YouTube. All right, how's everybody doing? Hey, this is Michael M. Hotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. It is Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019, and we're live. Hope everybody's doing well today. My days are mixed up because I was in Atlanta this past weekend for the 8th annual Liberated Minds Black Homeschool and Education Expo. I was a speaker there, presenter there on Sunday, July 21st, and I was there all 3 days. So it's been busy. I got back to Detroit Monday night, and I'm still trying to get back in the swing of things. My days are mixed up. So how's everybody doing today? Share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. Okay, so yesterday I saw this story. I'd been, following the developments with the R. Kelly case and the federal charges that came down July 12th. And I knew those federal charges were coming because I saw a couple of stories a few months before that, talking about how Homeland Security was investigating R. Kelly for violations of the Mann Act and interstate sex trafficking, things like this. Okay, so I knew the federal charges were coming down. So I was trying to stay abreast on news stories, and I saw this story from Blavity.com Monday evening. Okay, and it dealt with R. Kelly's crisis manager, whose name was Daryl Johnson, and he did an interview with Gayle King on CBS Monday morning. Okay, and in the interview, and I'm going to go to the article from Blavity.com. They've updated the article since then. The name of the article: R. Kelly's crisis manager resigns after saying he would never leave his daughter alone with someone accused of pedophilia. All right, so I read the original article, and it was saying that Daryl Johnson said that he would never leave his adult daughter, who is in her 20s, alone with someone who had been accused of pedophilia. So right then, when I heard that, and I hadn't even seen the interview that he did with Gayle King, I read the article. I'm sitting back looking at this. I'm saying, wait a second. Is this the same guy he's supposed to be defending? And he's saying that? And then I was wondering, how's he going to be able to keep his job and keep going out here trying to some extent, defend R. Kelly and manage this crisis? And he says something like that. Okay, so he's not R. Kelly's attorney. Okay, R. Kelly's attorney is Stephen Greenberg, and you've heard me talk about this before. Go check my YouTube videos. You've heard me talk about Steve Greenberg before, because I said, R. Kelly needs a new attorney. Okay, now I think he belongs in prison. Okay, but he needs a new attorney also. But let's look at the original story. Okay, and since reading the original story, I went and watched the interview that Daryl Johnson did with Gayle King Monday morning on CBS this morning. Okay, but in a surprising interview with Gayle King on CBS this morning, R. Kelly's crisis manager Daryl Johnson told Gayle King how the singer R. Kelly is doing in jail and revealed his personal opinions about the artist. Now, Daryl Johnson, who according to USA Today is part of R. Kelly's inner circle, sat down with Gayle King on Monday, July 22nd, 2019, following R. Kelly's arrest and jailing on July 11th. Yeah, that was July 11th. He was arrested on federal charges. Associated Press is an article from July 12th, 2019 that I'll talk about briefly as well. Feds bring new sex crime charges against singer R. Kelly. Okay, so R. Kelly is being held without bond at Chicago's Federal Metropolitan Correctional Center for indictments in Illinois and New York. Now, in a tweet, CBS this morning noted that the singer will appear in court next month in Brooklyn to face 18 sex crime charges, including child pornography. Okay, so this case is going to be totally different than the 2008 case. And then also, as Black America Web reported, Sparkle's niece, who was the subject of the video in the 2008 trial, she is now cooperating with the authorities. Okay, so that's another development. Okay, so this is going to be these trials and these charges are very, very serious. Okay, let me try to pull this up here also. Just a second here. All right, let's continue. Okay, how's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. We're broadcasting on our YouTube channel also, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep on YouTube. So blackamericaweb.com has an article, R. Kelly's Crisis. Let me see, not that one. It was a different one that I wanted. We'll pull that up. I think I have that one up also from blackamericaweb.com, also dealing with Sparkle's niece cooperating with authorities now. Okay, I think there's a link in this article to that also. Okay, so I'll pull that up as well. All right, let's go back to the one from Blavity. Okay, so Daryl Johnson, in an interview with Gayle King, said that I am concerned about Mr. Kelly. He said, when asked if he was under suicide watch, Daryl Johnson said, quote, I would assume at this point he is. Mr. Kelly is a mess. Now, R. Kelly's manager went on to dispel rumors, or his crisis manager. It's not his manager, it's his crisis manager. Went on to dispel rumors that the singer was faring well in jail, reminding people that R. Kelly cannot read, write, or watch TV. He said, quote, it's almost like a jury has convicted him. It's almost like a jury has convicted him. Let's see. Okay, so when asked if he was on the suicide watch, he said, I would assume at this point he is. Mr. Kelly is a mess. In a shocking point of the interview, however, Daryl Johnson also adamantly expressed his views on whether he would ever allow his 20-year-old daughter to be left alone with R. Kelly. Okay. Gayle King said, you have a 20-something-year-old daughter. Would you leave her alone with R. Kelly? Daryl Johnson responded, quote, absolutely not. I would not leave my daughter with anybody that's accused of pedophilia, period, end quote. Okay. And he was asked that question again. Okay. So acutely aware of Daryl Johnson's contradiction, Gayle King questioned why he continues to work with the alleged sexual abuser. She said, quote, you're defending R. Kelly, but at the same time saying you would not leave your daughter with him. All right. And that was a legitimate follow-up question. The first question was a good question. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, well, why would you ask a stupid question like that? No, it's not a stupid question. You should ask, as a journalist, you should ask those obvious questions and sit back and let them respond. Because a lot of times the answer that you get would not be an answer that you expected to get. This is an example of that. OK, I didn't expect him to say something like that. I've done hundreds of interviews. All right. I've been doing radio 9 years. I did not expect. Now, she's been doing TV and interviews much longer than me, but I did not expect Daryl Johnson to say something like that. OK, so that was a good question that that Gayle King asked. And that was a legitimate question also. All right. So let's continue here. Let me flip back over. So acutely aware of Daryl Johnson's contradiction, Gayle King questioned why he continued to work with an alleged sexual abuser. She said, you're defending R. Kelly, but at the same time saying you would not leave your own daughter with him. Daryl Johnson, crisis manager, or now former crisis manager for R. Kelly, responded, quote, I would not leave my daughter with anyone. I'll say it again, anyone that's accused of being a pedophile, end quote. So I read the article. I read the article yesterday, and I read some other ones, Huffington Post, Black Voices, NBCnews.com, about this interview and about Daryl Johnson resigning, because Daryl Johnson resigned Monday night, Monday evening. Okay. But I went and actually watched the interview that Gayle King did also. And after watching the interview that she did Monday morning, I'm sitting back trying to figure out, how is he going to keep his job? How is he still going to be able to go out here and defend R. Kelly, right? After saying something like that. Now, the other thing is that we have to keep in mind, and to be fair, the Daryl Johnson came aboard to be the crisis manager for R. Kelly before these federal charges hit. These federal charges came down on July 11th. And Associated Press reported about them on July 12th. So between July 11th, July 12th, these federal charges came down. And it looks like R. Kelly was indicted on July 12th. When these federal charges hit, that really took things to a whole nother level. Okay, so just to be fair, those federal charges hit after Daryl Johnson came aboard. It could be a situation where, even though what Daryl Johnson was saying was absolutely correct, in the back of his mind, he could also have been somehow looking for some type of exit strategy to say, you know, how can I get out of this and save face? So I'm not saying his response. I firmly believe he would not leave his 20-year-old daughter with R. Kelly. But at the same time, after these federal charges hit, and this took things to a whole nother level, he may have been trying to figure out, look, is this something I really want to be a part of? Now that this has been taken to a whole nother level, so at some point, it's possible he may have also been looking for some type of exit strategy as well. Okay, so he got one. So now he resigned last night. So if we go back to the article from Blavity, let's see, let me scroll back down here. Okay, so she said you're defending R. Kelly, but at the same time said you wouldn't leave your daughter with him. Okay, so Blavity updated the article and also read the one from Huffington Post Black Voices. They updated the article on July 23rd. R. Kelly's crisis manager resigned hours after he told Gayle King he would not trust the singer around his own daughter. Okay, so Daryl Johnson confirmed his departure in a text message to CNN on Monday night, just hours after he did the interview with Gayle King. Let's see, quote, Mr. Kelly is in good hands with Mr. Greenberg, referring to attorney Steve Greenberg. Now, I disagree that he's in good hands with Steve Greenberg, because I said months ago, R. Kelly needs a new attorney. All right. When Steve Greenberg was interviewed by ABC News Nightline, and he talked about how neither he nor R. Kelly had watched Surviving R. Kelly in its entirety, yet he's out here trying to defend him. Two, Steve Greenberg said that he was told, he said in this interview, he said he was told by R. Kelly that Aaliyah lied to him about her age, and lied and said that she was 18 years old when she was really 15 years old when R. Kelly and Aaliyah got married. Okay, this is what Steve Greenberg, R. Kelly's attorney, said when he was interviewed on ABC News. He said that he said that R. Kelly told him that Aaliyah lied about her age to R. Kelly and said that she was 18 years old when she was really 15 years old. Okay, but when you watch Surviving R. Kelly, they talked about how R. Kelly's team forged documents so that they could be married, and they stated that she was 18 when she was really 15 years old. Now, I'm from Detroit. You see a picture of Aaliyah behind me. Everybody in Detroit knew Aaliyah was underage when she got married to R. Kelly. That's why we were like, wait a second, hold on. She's only 15. I said, how did they get married and without the parents' permission? We all knew that was a lie. Okay. So theroot.com had an article about this. We'll try to pull up that article, and we'll post the link of it in the thread of the broadcast also. But go watch that interview, because see, when I saw that interview, and I talked about this on my radio show, the African History Network show, when I saw that interview that attorney Steve Greenberg did, I said, R. Kelly needs a new attorney. I said, this guy gonna get him convicted. Now, I believe R. Kelly needs to be convicted, especially after looking at these different cases, all these charges. I believe he needs to be convicted, but that attorney is gonna get him convicted even faster. Then the attorney brought up Elvis Presley being married to Priscilla Presley when she was underage, okay, as somehow this makes R. Kelly marrying Aaliyah, and Aaliyah's 15, somehow acceptable. All right. You're dealing with two entirely different periods of time. Now, I find it interesting that Steve Greenberg didn't want to mention Jerry Lee Lewis marrying his cousin when she was, I think about 13, 14 years old, because that destroyed Jerry Lee Lewis' career. Jerry Lee Lewis, who did the song Great Balls of Fire, and Dennis Quaid played Jerry Lee Lewis in the movie Great Balls of Fire. Okay. That marriage destroyed Jerry Lee Lewis' career. So I find it interesting he would bring up Priscilla Presley, but not bring up Jerry Lee Lewis. And Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis Presley were contemporaries. They were basically out at the same time. Okay, so if we look at this update from Blavity, so Daryl Johnson posted on social media that R. Kelly's in good hands with Steve Greenberg, and Johnson claims his decision to part ways had nothing to do with his former client's legal issues. Okay. He said, this has nothing to do with Mr. Kelly. It's for my own personal reasons. He told USA Today in a statement. Now, that could be very true for his own personal reasons. I just find it interesting that it just happened hours after he had the interview with Gayle King. Now, Dale Johnson also tried to clear up his comments to Gayle King. On Monday morning, he told the journalist he would not trust quote, anybody that's accused of pedophilia, quote, end quote, around his adult daughter. He said, I should have worded it better. I would leave my daughter with R. Kelly because I do not believe he is a pedophile. Okay, this is so he was asked at least twice. Okay, and then just like Trump, he doubled down in this statement in the interview. Okay, we're going to post a link to the interview. Go watch the full interview. Okay, because Gayle King followed up with them, gave him opportunity, and he doubled down. All right. But now, after he parts ways, he said, I should have worded it better. He said, I would leave my daughter with R. Kelly because I do not believe he is a pedophile. Okay, but he didn't. He was given the opportunity during the interview to clear it up, but he didn't clear it up. Now, Attorney Stephen Greenberg addressed Daryl Johnson's resignation on Twitter and implied he is merely taking a break. Okay. So I read the full statement. I went to Steve Greenberg's Twitter account, and he only has about 3,800 followers. I don't find that hard to believe. So I read the full press release at his Twitter account. And here's what it says from, let's see, what's it? Steve Greenberg, attorney at law, Chicago, Illinois, July 22nd, 2019. As has been reported, Daryl Johnson has decided to take some time off for personal reasons from his efforts on behalf of R. Kelly. The defense wants to thank Mr. Johnson for his tireless assistance and looks forward to his return. He shares our confidence that this is an unprecedented assault against R. Kelly by others for their own personal gain and in the innocence of R. Kelly. Okay. And then he goes on to say there will be no further comment. All right. So this is from R. Kelly's attorney, Steve Greenberg, who has, what is it? Let's see here. 3,334 followers. So somebody watching this maybe will follow him, and maybe he'll get some more followers. Okay. All right. So that's the statement from R. Kelly's attorney. All right. Now, what I find interesting is that in Daryl Johnson's statement, he ain't saying anything about returning. Okay, if this is his full statement that I'm reading, right? He said, this has nothing to do with Mr. Kelly. It's for my own personal reasons. He told the USA Today in the statement. If I'm reading all this correctly, he didn't say anything about returning. Stephen Greenberg said we look forward to him returning. Daryl Johnson didn't say anything about returning. So we'll see how this plays out. All right. If we look at the article, we'll come to some of your comments here in just a minute. Okay. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in, and also on our YouTube channel. So we're on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. Those just tuning in, I'm Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network show, founder of the African History Network. And we're broadcasting on my YouTube channel also, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. Let's see. So I just got back in Detroit Monday night. I was in Atlanta this past weekend, and the NAACP national conference is taking place right now in Detroit. So I will be at the conference for the Democratic candidate forum on Wednesday, July 24th. This kicks off, I think, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., something like that. So I have to be there early. So I've already registered for that. So I'll be there Wednesday morning. If you're in Detroit, I hope to see you there. And you probably register at naacp.org. We posted information on our Facebook fan page. I guess people can still register for it. It's free to attend. And I'm going to be reporting on it later in the day, probably throughout the day. I'm going to try to Facebook Live some of it if they'll let me do that, and give you some reports and updates throughout the day as well. So stay tuned for that also. Okay. All right. Let's go to, let's see here. We'll go to some of your comments here in just a minute. And African-American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. All right, if we look at the article from Huffington Post Black Voices, they have a really, really good article here, and we'll post it on the thread of the broadcast also. This is entitled, R. Kelly's Crisis Manager Resigns After Saying He Would Not Leave His Daughter with Him. Okay. And I just want to hit some things that are not redundant. Johnson went on to insist that this was not a contradiction to publicly defend R. Kelly against federal and state charges alleging he sexually abused girls and young women and paid off the family of a girl who appeared with him in a child sex tape. Okay, so this is something that was also reported by thegrio.com, and we'll come to that in just a minute. We'll come to that in just a minute. That the family of the niece of Sparkle was allegedly paid off by R. Kelly for her not to testify. Okay. Now, Johnson, let's see, Daryl Johnson later tried to walk back the comments, telling USA Today, quote, that I should have worded it better. He claimed he meant to say I would leave my daughter with R. Kelly because I do not believe he is a pedophile. All right. All right. Now, R. Kelly has faced numerous charges for sexual assault, including with minors. He was indicted early this month, July 2019, in federal court on 18 new counts. He is jailed without bond after a federal judge in Chicago said last week that the singer had failed to show that he would not commit new crimes if released. All right. So let me do this quickly here. I want to post a link to the article from blavity.com. We'll post that. And then we'll post the link also from the one from Huffington Post Black Voices as well. Okay. All right, so who we have here? We've got Kenneth, Gibbs, Bruce, Gigi, Felicia, the people at Toya, as well as just a few of the people watching us on our Facebook fan page. And then we're also on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep, on YouTube. Okay. If you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. Also at our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, africanhistorynetwork.com. All right. Click on the yellow donate button. Okay. So, Associated Press had an article from July 12, 2019. Feds bring new sex crime charges against singer R. Kelly. Feds bring new sex crime charges against singer R. Kelly. Okay. And in the article, it says R. Kelly and his entourage recruited girls and women to engage in illegal sexual activity with the singer and covered up the crimes by paying off and threatening victims and witnesses. Federal prosecutors alleged Friday, July 12th, in indictments that could keep the Grammy winner behind bars for decades. Now, because they come from the federal government, the accusations add a new dimension. Because they come from the federal government, the accusations add a new dimension to the allegations against R. Kelly, who was already facing sexual abuse charges brought by Illinois prosecutors earlier this year, early in 2019. Now, one federal indictment in Chicago said R. Kelly arranged for a girl and her parents to travel overseas to prevent them from talking with police prior to his 2002 indictment on 21 counts of child pornography. And that case went to trial in 2008. The R&B artist allegedly later instructed them to lie to a grand jury about the case. R. Kelly was acquitted in 2008 of the charges, which accused him of recording a video of sex acts with the girl, who was 12 or 13 when they met in the mid-1990s. Okay, now that girl is now cooperating with authorities also. Okay, blackamericaweb.com had an article dealing with that. So a separate indictment filed in the Eastern District of New York. Okay, now these are federal charges, included charges of racketeering, kidnapping, forced labor, and the sexual exploitation of a child. It said R. Kelly and his managers, bodyguards, and other assistants picked out women and girls at concerts and other venues and arranged for them to travel to see R. Kelly. So for some time now, people have been saying, well, wait a second. R. Kelly didn't do all this stuff by himself. Okay. So if you're going to charge R. Kelly, then you got to charge all these other enablers around him. He didn't do all this stuff by himself. And I totally agree with that. Now, I understand R. Kelly is illiterate. I understand he was sexually abused, allegedly by his older sister when he was a child. Okay. And we do know hurt people hurt people. I do understand he needs psychological help. He needs therapy. He allegedly has been a victim of molestation, just like his younger brother, Kerry Kelly, has been a victim of molestation as well. Tasha K on YouTube did an interview with Kerry Kelly some months back. And Kerry Kelly, the younger brother of R. Kelly, talked about the molestation and how they were both being molested by an older sister, allegedly, okay, by an older sister. So I understand all that. But also, you got people around R. Kelly who were enabling, okay, and allowing this to take place. And when I read articles dealing with the investigation that Homeland Security was doing into sex trafficking and all this stuff, these are things that they talked about. This was some months ago. I read about that this investigation was taking place, a federal investigation. Okay, so it said that, so the indictment in the Eastern District of New York included charges of racketeering, kidnapping, forced labor, and the sexual exploitation of children. Okay. And let's see, I'm not sure why this is fuzzing up on us. The broadcast is fuzzing up on us on Facebook, but we're trying to make it through this. Okay. So hopefully we're still there. And we're also on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, on YouTube as well. All right, so it said R. Kelly and his managers, bodyguards, and other assistants picked out women and girls at concerts and other venues and arranged for them to travel to see R. Kelly. They also set rules the women and girls had to follow, including not leaving the rooms, even to eat or to go to the bathroom, without R. Kelly's permission, calling the singer, quote unquote, daddy, and not looking at other men, the indictment alleges. Now, if you watch Surviving R. Kelly, and I watched it twice, I also watched the follow-up that was done some months later. The women interviewed who are making these allegations against R. Kelly, these are things that a lot of them said. Another theme of that Surviving R. Kelly documentary. Another theme is that one of the reasons why this was allowed to go on so long is that these were largely African-American girls and women that were being victimized, allegedly. Because if these had been white women he was allegedly doing this to, this would have been stopped a long time ago. And nobody cares when African-American women or girls are being sexually abused, okay, in general. Nobody cares about that. And this is historical, all right? If you go back and look at a broadcast I did 2 or 3 months ago, I guess it was probably May, I dealt with the adultification bias when it comes to African-American girls, adultification bias. There was a study that came out from Georgetown Law's Center on Poverty and Inequality, Georgetown Law's Center on Poverty and Inequality. And they talked about how a new report details the negative consequences suffered by Black women and girls when people perceive them as older than their white peers, Researchers at Georgetown Law's Center on Poverty and Inequality reported their findings after speaking to groups of Black girls and women across the country about whether their real life experiences reflected what the same researchers found in 2017. The quote unquote adultification of Black girls. Okay. The women and girls say they did. The prior study in 2017, which drew headlines 2 years ago, found that U.S. adults believe Black girls seem older than white girls of the same age, that Black girls need less nurturing, less support, and less comfort, and that young Black girls know more about sex than white girls do. Okay. So when this study originally came out 2017, I talked about this on the African History Network show. Then a follow-up study came out in May of 2017. Huffington Post Black Voices has an article about this. I did a broadcast then when it came out sometime in May. But check us out on YouTube, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep on YouTube. And you'll find it there. Dealt with adultification bias. Okay, this is a legacy of slavery. This is a legacy of slavery. This is why understanding history is so important. It's so important because if you look at the broadcast I did in May or June, that dealt with the research from Stephanie E. Jones Rogers of University of California, Berkeley. And her book that came out in February 2019 called They Were Her Property. They Were Her Property. Her research and her new book deals with how from 1850 to 1860, about 40% of slave owners in this country were white women. And it talks about how sexual assault was orchestrated among African-American women and girls to produce more slave babies, to increase the profit of slave owners, slave masters, but also white women who were slave owners and slave masters. Okay. And you had African-American women and girls who were turned into breeders. And the more children they could breed, the more value they had. But they could also gain their freedom if an agreement was made with the slave master that if they produced a certain number of healthy babies that survived, they could also gain their freedom. So when we look at the fact that they largely, African-American women largely did not have protection during slavery, it was not illegal to rape a Black woman who was a slave. If that was your property, it was not illegal to rape them. A slave master could do what they wanted to them. So their sexuality was turned into a commodity. Their humanity was not respected. The same thing with African-American men, but African-American men did not give birth. When we look at something like adultification bias, and we look at the fact that when we look at the study, it talked about how Black girls, young Black girls are perceived to know more about sex than young white girls do. Well, historically, it was young Black girls who were being breeded and sexually assaulted for a profit. So when you look at the fact that white girls were put into a protected class, and they were protected largely in general from being raped, and African-American girls were not, a stigma gets associated with African-American girls and women that's passed down from generation to generation. This is what we're dealing with now when we look at the study that came out in May from Georgetown Law Center on Poverty and Inequality, dealing with adultification bias when it comes to African-American girls and women. That's handed down from generation to generation. So when we look at the hypersexualization of African-American women and girls in the media, when we look at negative corporate controlled hip hop that's controlled by largely white corporate conglomerates that continue to put out negative stereotypical images of African-American women, showing them as hypersexualized, okay? Focusing in on their body parts in music videos, dehumanizing them. That is a direct legacy of slavery. That is a direct legacy of slavery. When we look at the names, and I'm not going to say those names here, the B word and even the W word. When we look at the names associated with African-American girls when during slavery, if you go and do research, you look at, there was a business we know there was not just a business in the auctioning off and the selling of enslaved Africans. There was a business in producing the handbills that advertised the selling of slaves. There were ads placed in newspapers, paid ads placed in newspapers that advertised the auctioning of enslaved Africans. And they would talk about a black woman or black girl who was a breeder, and she could produce this number of children for you, things like this. So we see, when we study this history, we see the commodification of the sexuality of African-American women. The same thing with black men who were studs, things like this. But we're going to see even more with African-American women and girls. Okay. That did not stop. That continues to this day. Okay. So this is why we have to understand how we are under assault by the images that we see. Okay, your thoughts create feelings, your feelings create actions and behaviors, your actions and behaviors create results. When we look at Surviving R. Kelly, the documentary, one of the reoccurring themes in the documentary is the only reason why he was able to get away with something like this for so long, allegedly, is because these were allegedly black women and girls that this was happening to, and nobody cares when black women and girls are sexually assaulted, when they are abused, when they are molested. But that's historical, which ties right into the study from Georgetown Law Center on Poverty and Inequality dealing with adultification bias in girls. And they found that black girls, they found that people perceive the prior study, which was in 2017, drew headlines 2 years ago, 2017. And that study found that U.S. adults believe your thoughts create feelings, your feelings create actions and behaviors, your actions and behaviors create results. Your thoughts are shaped by what's within the circumference of your own awareness that's fed to you by the images that you see. What you read, see, and hear affects the way you think, feel, act, and behave. So this study in 2017 found that U.S. adults believe that black girls seem older than white girls of the same age, that black girls need less nurturing, less support, and less comfort, and that young black girls know more about sex than white girls do. Well, when you're being sexually assaulted and molested, you probably will know more about sex than white girls do. Quote, almost all the black girls and women we talked to said they had experienced adultification bias as children. End quote, report co-author Jamelia Blake, who said this in a statement. Quote, and then overwhelmingly agreed that it led teachers and other adults to treat them more harshly and hold them to higher standards than white girls. This is a direct legacy of slavery and the mistreatment of African-American women during slavery. Now, what we have to understand is that when we look at research from people like Dr. Rachel Yehuda, and we look at the field of study called epigenetics, epigenetics deals with how trauma is passed on from generation to generation, okay? Because of traumatic experiences that you go through. It can be witnessing a murder. It could be surviving the Holocaust. It can be surviving sexual assault, things like this. What it does is it alters your DNA. It alters the FKBP5 portion of your DNA, and it causes elevated stress hormonal levels. And you can pass on altered DNA to your offspring and future generations. This field of study is called epigenetics, EPIGENETICS, epigenetics. Research Dr. Rachel Yehuda. I read her paper that she has at the New England Journal of Medicine on their website. So she's a pioneer in this study. Okay. So she did research with Jewish Holocaust survivors. And she found that the survivors of the Jewish Holocaust, like in Germany, things like this, she found that they had elevated stress hormonal levels, and they passed on this elevated stress hormonal levels and altered DNA. They passed it on to their offspring. So if this happened during a short period of time that the Holocaust took place, I'm not trying to minimize the Holocaust, okay? But I'm comparing that to 246 years of enslavement of African people in this country. Okay, if that happened to Jewish Holocaust survivors, then what do we think happened to African people who were enslaved for 246 years in this country, and then after that dealt with decades of Jim Crow, segregation, and terrorism? What do we think happened there? Okay, so we have to understand this. This stuff is real. And this is a legacy of slavery as well. So when people talk about reparations, they're talking about repairing the damage. Reparations is not just a check. Reparations is not just a check. We're talking about repairing damage that was done. This is why I've said before, and when I was speaking at the Liberated Minds Black Homeschool and Education Expo in Atlanta this past weekend, I spoke Sunday, July 21st. My presentation was dealing with 6 principles of political self-defense and how public policies impact the economic condition of African Americans. This is why I said I'm all for reparations, but one, we need to learn how to make legal arguments for reparations, because most of these arguments are not legal arguments for reparations. 2, if we ever get reparations, the majority of the compensation should not be in the form of money, because if we all got $1 million a day, white people will have it all back this time next week, and the only thing we would have done is stimulated their economy. Each year there's an economic portion of the Black Homeschooling Conference, and that's on Sunday. So each year we talk about how African Americans spend 97% of our dollars with people that don't look like us. Well, if we're psychologically damaged and we spend 97% of our dollars with people that don't look like us, if we all got $500,000 or $1 million, you think that spending pattern is going to change? No, it's going to continue. Actually, it's going to get a little worse. So this is real. And these are like real ramifications that we're dealing with. Okay. How you doing, Toya, LM Gibbs, Boudreaux? How's everybody doing? All right. Share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. African American business owners, post name your business here on the thread of the broadcast. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Advertise on our broadcasts, on the audio podcast, also of our Sunday night shows. And it's summertime, and a lot of people want to get back in shape. The Fast Life 28-day challenge can help you with that. This 28-day challenge includes 3 health coaches, and it deals with the powers of fasting. Okay. It's an online coaching program to help members tap into their body's natural ability to repair itself via fasting. In this challenge, they focus on utilizing fasting, whole foods, and movement to improve metabolic conditions such as obesity, high blood pressure, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, and more. Visit their website, tfl28.com, tfl28.com for more information. And they also have a new group starting up. It's a 4-week, 28-day challenge. They have a new group starting up soon. So check out their website, tfl28.com, for more information. All right, let me post this here. How you doing, Tracy? On Facebook. Let's see who we have on YouTube here. Okay, that's coming up. Okay, so we'll post a link to this article here from Huffington Post, Black Voices. Black girls detail harsh consequences of being seen as older than white peers. Okay, this deals with adultification bias as well. Then if we look at, and now this adultification bias also deals with African-American males. You've heard me talk before about the research from Dr. Philip Atiba Goff. The study came out in 2014. It's at the American Psychological Association's website, apa.org. And that study deals with how Black boys were more likely to be viewed as older and to be suspected of crime starting at the age of 10. Okay, so we see similarities between that as well as the adultification bias among African-American girls also. All right, so if we go back to the article from the APA Associated Press, and on YouTube, we've got Tiffany, we've got Lady, Doc, Hillman, just a few of the people on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, watching also. Tiffany said, let's see, how many white rock stars do the same thing, though it's part of the groupie culture? That's a good question. Now, what happens is in music, the drug, sex, rock and roll culture, right, is more acceptable of certain things like that. But I think what's going to happen is that you're going to start finding out about more of them being exposed also. I think what's going to happen is you're going to start finding out about more of them being exposed as well, because it's being looked at as being less permitted. Okay. So having groupies is one thing. Sex trafficking is another thing. Engaging in sex with underage girls, that's something entirely different. All right. So groupies, yeah, I've seen it happen. Groupies are one thing. Underage girls are another thing. And if we look at Jeffrey Epstein is in some deep, deep trouble. Okay. Because see, Jeffrey Epstein is coming, that whole sweetheart deal that he got from Acosta, who just resigned as the Secretary of Labor, who was the U.S. Attorney. That whole thing is coming back under scrutiny now. Okay. And you have more and more accusers of Jeffrey Epstein coming out. So he's sitting in jail right now, denied bail, awaiting trial. And it's possible he may never get out of jail. It's quite possible he may never see the day of light. All right, let's continue here. And then also, it's believed that he may start telling on other people also. So we'll see where that goes. And y'all saw the video of he and Donald Trump back in 1992 at a party that Trump threw, right? And then they're commenting on the women. Y'all saw that video, right? MSNBC had it. Go MSNBC.com and search for that as well. That's going to be interesting. Okay. So now Trump is trying to distance himself from it after years ago saying that Epstein was a terrific guy and things like this, right? And he likes women on the younger side. So now Trump is trying to distance himself away from that. Okay. So if we go back to the article from the Associated Press, feds bring new sex crime charges against singer R. Kelly. Okay, Hillman said, I need your website. Well, our website is AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com is our website, and all my DVD lectures are there also. You can also donate to the African History Network there as well. Okay, that helps cover when I have to travel and hit these events, because I'll be in Atlanta. I'll be back in Atlanta August 3rd for the the Black Agenda Tour. Okay, just got back from Atlanta last night, and I'll be back in Atlanta August 3rd for the Black Agenda Tour. Michi X, Jice Johnson. I don't know the location. I have to look at the website. Black Agenda on tour for that. But it's summertime. This is time when I'm on the road traveling. Okay, so you can donate to the African History Network as well. That helps us to finance all of that. Let's go back to the Associated Press article here. Okay. So a separate indictment filed in the Eastern District of New York included charges of racketeering, kidnapping, forced labor, and sexual exploitation of a child. Okay, I think it's a thunderstorm or something outside right now, and it sounds like hail hitting the window. So that's what you hear. Okay. It's crazy weather in Detroit right now. It said that R. Kelly and his managers, bodyguards, and other assistants picked out women and girls at concerts and other venues and arranged for them to travel to see R. Kelly. They also set rules the women and girls had to follow, including not leaving their rooms, even to eat or go to the bathroom without R. Kelly's permission, calling the singer daddy, and not looking at other men, the indictment alleges. The allegations have swirled for years around R. Kelly, whom federal prosecutors said Friday was, quote, emboldened by his fame and the lack of any real consequences, end quote. So this is from the article from July 12, 2019 from the Associated Press. And let me try to pull up that article up here also. Okay, where is that? Thought I had it up from the Associated. Oh yeah, here we go, from the Associated Press. Okay, so the allegations have swirled for years around R. Kelly, whom federal prosecutors said Friday, quote, was quote emboldened by his fame and lack of real consequences, end quote. The charges come after 2 documentaries and a series of new articles about the accusations, as well as pleas from prosecutors who have urged new victims and witnesses came forward. So R. Kelly was arrested Thursday evening while walking his dog in Chicago. He appeared in court on Friday, standing before the judge in an orange jumpsuit with his hands clasped behind his back. The only words he spoke during the 15-minute hearing was "yes, ma'am." Okay, if we look further down in the article, it says the New York indictment alleges that the criminal acts occurred over 2 decades dating back to 1999, both in the U.S. and overseas. It accuses R. Kelly of engaging in sexual acts with girls under 18, of having sex with a woman without disclosing that he had a sexually transmitted disease, and of producing child pornography. Okay, so these are the indictments from the Eastern District of New York. Okay, these are federal charges. Now, the Chicago indictment charges R. Kelly with child sex crimes, including producing child pornography, and conspiracy to defraud the U.S. government. Okay, child pornography and conspiracy to defraud the U.S. government. And let me try to scroll up to this. Okay, conspiracy to defraud the U.S. government. It also names R. Kelly's business manager, Darrell McDavid, and another employee. Okay. And let's see, can we go to this here in the article? All right, it says R. Kelly recorded himself engaged in sex acts with several minor girls and went to great lengths to recover the videos when he realized some were missing from his collection. R. Kelly allegedly made some victims and witnesses take a lie detector test to ensure they had returned all of the copies of the videos. All right. Now, R. Kelly's acquittal in his previous child pornography trial came after he and the girl who prosecutors said was in the video denied they were in the footage, even though the picture quality was good and witnesses testified it was them. She did not take the stand. The indictment says R. Kelly continued to make payments to the girl after the trial. Okay, this is the 2008 trial. And that R. Kelly also transferred the title of a luxury SUV to the girl in 2013. All right, so these are allegations. See, this is why these federal charges are deep. Okay, so check that out. Associated Press, feds bring new sex crime charges against singer R. Kelly. There's more to it. You can check that out also. Now, thegrio.com had an article that dealt with getting back the tapes. I'm going to try to bring that up also here. We'll post a link to that as well. I thought I had that up. Okay, we'll go back to this. Let's see here. Go back to that. Let's look at some of your comments here. Okay. Henry Broadnax, contact me. Okay. Email me at customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, Henry as well. The African American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Our current promote 2 months for the price of 1. And we take your 30-second to 60-second audio commercial, put into the audio podcast or the broadcast we do throughout the week, and also our Sunday night show, the African History Network show. And we're on 8 different podcast platforms also. All right. Okay, let's see. This is running slowly for some reason. I'm not sure why. Let's try to pull this up on the other laptop. There was an article from thegrio.com. I wanted to go to. This all ties into the a couple of previous articles that we talked about before. One, when we look at Chance the Rapper, right? Chance the Rapper, and I like Chance the Rapper. Okay, so it's not a tech on Chance the Rapper, but this is looking at what he said. There was a segment of him in, and he admitted something in there that's very important. HelloBeautiful.com has an article about this. From what date was this? This is back from March 2019. Chance